What is up, Fantasyland? We are back in the district, and week one has happened. A lot of narratives happening. Guys, this is the time of year where we separate the narratives. Where are we going with it? I got to stop it, guys. I'm going to stop it. Sorry, man. We'll be back. We'll be right back. Actually, you know what? I can't stop it, so we're going to keep going. All right, guys. Apologize for that. Look, we got a big show tonight. We're just going to jump right into it. Basically, what I was getting at, this is a time of year we got to separate your narrative coming into week one. Is it time to deviate from it? Is it time to kind of take a different road? Is it time to look at week one and react, quickly? Should you move guys? Should you go get guys, buy the dip, as we say? Is Aaron Rodgers buy the dip? Is Elijah Mitchell the scenario where you're buying the rumor and selling the news? These are all strategies we're going to talk about tonight. It's week one. It's a new season, guys. There's been football on the field. How you react is how it's going to differentiate you from all your league mates. We're here to do it like we do every week, guys. No different. We bring in VIP guests, a high stakes legend tonight, guys, to talk about all these strategies. Let's get right into it, guys. Let's get into the goodness. Booyah.
Go district. Bleed, I ball. Bleed, I ball. Bleed, I ball. Bleed, ball. And I bleed, I ball. Bleed, I ball. It's the Go district, y'all. I ball, cause I bleed. Hey, bleeding, I ball. Defeated the odds, didn't see him at all. JD in the pies, I needed it.
All right, boys, we're going to get right into it. I got the week one jitters. I got the week one jitters. We got such a big show tonight. I'm pressing the wrong buttons. I'm starting at the wrong time. I got my wrong intro. But you know what, guys? Like we do it every week. Dan, Theo, you guys are back from Vegas. I know you guys are ready for tonight. We got a huge guest. Dan, before we get into it, dare I ask, how was Vegas?
Vegas was great. How would Vegas ever be? It's always fun. There's so much to do. There's so much going on. The drafts are fantastic. Just really enjoy talking to all the high stakes players. We compete against every year, and guys I just really respect, and just the opportunity to kind of touch base with them, and the one thing that you really find out in Vegas is everybody's in this whole industry is really a decent human being. The high stakes guys, just basically one and all, really super nice guys. When you get to know them in person, they're happy to talk with you. They're willing to meet new people and everything. So that's a ton of fun. And then of course the food, the entertainment in Vegas is always top notch. All day at the sports book on Sunday, making a little money on the side, having some fun. I thought a pretty set of terrible picks. Theo can probably attest to that. He looked at them, and yet I had the right parlays, so I somehow managed to make money off it anyway. So it was fun. What about you, Theo?
Oh, I had a blast. It's been like a kind of a whirlwind for me. I did all the live drafts in New York City, and then the live drafts in Vegas. So like the last 2 weekends were just wild. Between the NFFC and the FFPC, I drafted a lot of teams and a lot of teams live. So it was a great experience. Dan and I got to draft the main event team. We did 2 main event entries together. One we did online, and one we got to draft live out in Vegas. I'm bullish on both of our teams. It was a pleasure drafting with Dan. It was great to see a lot of the people we interact with in the NFFC and the FFPC. Talk to some guys that I'm friendly with, and some guys that I just enjoy competing against. If anybody's ever thinking about going and drafting live, there's nothing better. So yeah, it was awesome, and I'm glad we have the NFL back. We've been talking about draft stuff for months and months, and now we're on to actually analyzing games and situations and waiver wires and all that good stuff. So I'm fired for tonight.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about, guys, and that's I mean, look, put it this way: this show can only go up from here, right? We already messed everything up you possibly can in an intro, but like you said, Theo, I'm glad you guys had a blast in Vegas. Yeah, super jealous. And every year that if I do miss it, it's like something's missing, that time of year. So I'm glad you guys got to go out. I'm glad you guys got to hang out. And from what I heard, you guys got to meet a lot of our audience, which is awesome. People coming up to you, telling you how much they love the show. And guys, check out Dan and Theo dropped a quick live feed from live from Vegas while they were down there. You can check that out on the channel as well. So guys, no further ado, man, we got to bring this man in. We've been bringing in these high stake beasts to give you guys info that you're probably not hearing anywhere else, tips, tricks, strategies, approaches. And this man, Mr. Matt Modica, welcome to the GOAT District, my friend, is no different.
Hey guys, glad to be here tonight.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. This is fantastic. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been doing in high stakes and all that? I know that a lot of our listeners are familiar, but I'm sure that there's some who are not familiar with your work and would like to find out a little more.
Yes, I started basically in the high stakes with fantasy baseball. So if anybody that doesn't know me that's watching and they see at CTN Baseball, why is he on a football podcast? But I've been heavily involved in high stakes football for many years now. The last two, we just missed out, me and Andy Saxton, on the primetime final. We were third overall last year, second in the Classic the year before that. And the New York Super the year before that we won. So,
yeah, Matt's a very respected player in the NFFC and also the NFBC. He's taken down a lot of big prizes, and I think he's a very sharp guy. When you talk about players, he's not afraid to go against the grain, and it's a really great way to start off the GOAT District after week one. And really just get a chance to talk about some of these situations.
Yeah, man. Like I was trying to say in the intro is it's all about the narratives, right? Like we come into week one, we've kind of positioned our players, our rosters based on these narratives that we have coming in the week. And now it's like, how far are we going to deviate from that as things happen on the field, right? And I think the guys that do it the best, and you two are perfect examples of that, are the ones that handle these situations the best, that find those opportunities, that don't knee-jerk react to it, right? And then maybe give away huge value or make a bad trade or whatever it is, maybe blow their wad on a waiver wire pick, we might talk about tonight. But just that's kind of, these are the little intricacies that, those are the little edges you can gain over your league mates. And tonight's guest, combined with Dan and Theo and all the goodness, and guys, let's face it, there was a lot of goodness on the field this weekend. Especially last night. So let's get into it. We lost our guest just for a second. He was just having a bit of a sound issue. So we just asked him to you better there? Can you still
Yes, I'm back. It was actually my fault. I had my Safari browser, open. So I was hearing that. And then I was hearing this. That's why I was pausing to answer. I was hearing you, and then other stuff was coming back on this side of my ear. So I apologize for that. I'm ready to rock and roll and go over this fantastic week one.
No need to apologize, man. I just messed up the biggest intro of the year, week one. So you're all good, man. I make everybody look better. Here, right? I'm here to make everyone look better, man. That's the deal. But guys, let's start in Dallas. We had some fireworks on Thursday night. Great way to start the season. Obviously both ends of the ball showing some serious firepower. But one guy that, was maybe a bit of a disappointment, and Matt, as our guest, I'll go to you first. We actually started touching on this before we press the big red button. But Zeke, is he still considered elite in your eyes, or is he maybe more of a matchup play at this point?
An honest question for me, and, I'm always, if you follow me on Twitter, you know I'm transparent. I post my graph paper of my drafts or boards and stuff like that. For me, I have zero Zeke. It's not that I think Zeke is a terrible player, and I could be completely wrong, and that could look really bad. But for me, I was going to go with like the high end receivers, or I think there's only a handful of possible high end running backs. Obviously, CMC is the cheat code, but a Dalvin Cook. I think Eckler. I'm sure we'll touch on him later. But I think he could be one of those guys. Jonathan Taylor, to me, was always one of those guys, just a couple things had to break his way. Looks like it might be a lot. But getting back on Zeke, I think he'll be fine. I think he's going to be good this year. I'm not saying he's not going to be good. He's not going to have some monster weeks. For me, I just think it's becoming more and more of a passing league every year. I think that's becoming evident. I think this Cowboy team is more of a passing team. Number one, they have the weapons. With Cooper and Lamb, obviously it was dictated in that game with the Bucs' fantastic run defense to throw the ball more and to play that horse race game with them. But for me, he's in the middle. I don't think he's an elite guy. I know I'm probably in the minority to say that, but that's what I believe, and I'm not going to shy from that. But I think he's much better than a matchup guy.
Dan, true. Oh, sorry, Theo. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to agree with Matt. I don't have any Zeke either, and it wasn't a disliking him thing. But in NFC, it was kind of like, go with Tyreek Hill or Devontae Adams or Zeke. It was a no-brainer for me. And then, FFPC, you have Kelsey and Waller plus those great wide receivers. So it was a guy I didn't really have exposure to. And I'll agree with Matt. I think that you just have to kind of pump the brakes on Zeke, challenging for, RB2 overall or RB3 overall. I think based on the offense, based on, how he should be utilized in games that are a favorite, which they should probably have a number of games where they're going to be a favorite. I think he'll be a low-end RB1. I don't know if his win rates are going to be great for the teams drafted him in the top 5, but I don't think he's gonna sink you. I wish Tony Pollard would get more work, but I think Zeke is going to continue to get enough that he's going to be a low-end RB1 type.
Dan, anything to add? And I'm going to throw. We're getting some really good questions from the chat. Shout out to Famous Jay. So I'll throw some on there as we go around here. Dan, anything to add on the Dallas situation with Zeke, and then maybe we can touch on Famous Jay's question. How important is it to get off to a good start? To win a tournament, especially the big tournaments. Like obviously, he's referring to these high stakes tournaments, the big money leagues.
Yeah, so on Zeke, I don't really have much to add. I got really all my exposure, which was underweight in the mid stakes tourneys rather than in the high stakes ones. I didn't want to come into the season with no Zeke whatsoever, but I also wasn't really feeling it in the high stakes ones, so I kind of left him alone there. And to answer Famous Jay's question, how important is it for your team to get off to a good start for winning a tournament? A lot of times it can be super important. I mean, if you happen to hit on the right waiver wire pick, 2, 3, 4 weeks into the season, maybe you can come back. But I mean, if you start off and you score 90 points and the leader of your league has 180, you got a long way to go to make it up. It's not to say it can't be done, but you're basically trying to gain ground on everybody or almost everybody if you're sitting in the bottom of your particular league, and that's a tough place to come back from. But if you can at least be middle of the pack, if not higher, you're probably off to a good enough start, and and hopefully you've got the right players. But that's what it's really going to come down to is, do you have those players who can carry you week to week to week, or do you just have the guys who are kind of good every now and then? If you got the guys who are just good every now and then, it's not going to be enough.
Matt, what are your thoughts? Obviously, with your experience in the high stakes world, what are your thoughts on getting a good start? And that could even come from your baseball experience.
I think it's imperative. Like Dan said, you're not out of it. And you could have just had a bad week, and next week you bounce back and you score 213 points, and you're right there, middle of the pack. But you definitely – I don't really – at least the leagues I play in are more points-based. So I'm geared on points. I'm looking at 170 is the baseline. I want to have at least 170 every week. And now, are you going to get that every week? No. But, I mean, obviously I want more. And, Even in the league where I scored 200 points in one of my online champions, Dan scored 208, so I didn't even get first place for that. So I mean, but I'm right there. You don't you're buried. It's not over. It's week 1, and next week, maybe you're facing the Falcons. Maybe who's I forget off the top of my head who's playing Atlanta this week. I know Saquon's playing him week 3, but I forget who's playing him this week. So maybe
Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay, like Ronald Jones might actually, have a good day, believe it or not. But I mean, that offense going up against the Falcons. So I do think it's imperative. It's not the end of the world. It's always better to start on a good foot. But I think you have to know averages. Like you're looking at an average score every week. So 170, you really don't want to be under 150. That's what I look at. That's like the baseline. I don't want to be under. I know not all my teams are going to put 170 or more, but I really don't want to be under 150.
Theo, since we're talking Tampa, Gronk, just, having a Gronk type of intro to the season, we'll touch on AB a bit. I know Dan was a big AB guy going into the season, so I got to give him his props on that one. But talk about Gronk. We're obviously playing in the FFPC tight end premium type leagues. Is he considered an elite player, an elite tight end now for you? Is in that elite tier, or is this one of those buy the hype, sell the news type of scenarios?
I mean, Gronk doesn't look quite as athletic as he used to, but I think that it doesn't really matter. I think he's going to score enough to return as a mid tight end 1. I think he looks like a steal for early drafters, and you could see how the market shifted in the FFPC and the NFFC this past weekend after that Thursday night blow up game. But I'm buying Gronk. OJ Howard looked completely behind him. OJ was used as a blocker, and that's a incredibly explosive offense. And I think that if Gronk is going to see this type of target share, I think it might not be a week to week type blow up game, but I think there will be a few more blow up games, and he'll have enough points at the end of the year to look like really one of the steals of the draft at the tight end position. So I'm absolutely buying Gronk.
Dan, do you want to gloat about AB, or should I ask Matt if he's got any other truth or dare scenarios out there in Buckland?
No, I got to take my victory lap real quick on both Gronk and AB because I was on them all off season, and getting the cheap shares and just absolutely loving it. And when I saw it on Thursday night, I mean, that was nothing was making me happier than to watch that going on and knowing that both of them were going to go shooting up the draft boards, and I was already sitting there with shares that were quite a bit cheaper. So that's a nice place to be sitting. I'm sure I'm going to be wrong on a lot this year. I've already been wrong on a few things, but I'll take the victories like that where I can get them. How about you, Matt? What are your thoughts on those two guys?
I think you want everybody and anybody that's involved with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, the running back situation is the dicey part of it, but that offense is just going to roll. Their division, I mean, who's really going to challenge them? So I think you have to be ecstatic if you got Gronk. I agree with everything you guys said. And also, too, it's part that the tight end after the top portion of it is really not that great. There's a couple of guys that can break out, but I mean, who does Gronk really have to beat there? Though he did go at like 310 in the first post Thursday night NFFC draft I did primetime, which that's a little crazy for me. I mean, I understand you're banking the 29 points. That's not even tight end premium. So, but yeah, so I'll go on board there. It's the Bucks babies look really good, and the Falcons are on tap.
Yeah, absolutely.
The price is huge there, right, Theo?
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree with Matt. Like, we saw some crazy. You see crazy things happen in Vegas because the game happens Thursday night. People tilt out. But Gronk went 310 in an NFFC prime time, and then he went at the 2-3 turn in a draft I was in a main event FFPC, which was really crazy. A guy went with Kelsey instead of McCaffrey at the one spot, and then he followed up with Gronk at the 2-3 turn. So that was not an ideal build in my opinion. But you see some wild stuff happen. So, yeah, it's
some people like to burn money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So we're talking about offenses that we, going back to the narratives that we're in, you want to invest in the Bucks is kind of the no-brainer that's become even more obvious. Tennessee was kind of a little different in the sense that they had a really good season last year offensively. They bring in a piece like Julio. Now, that offense just did not look good, in any way this weekend. Now, Matt, are you panicking on Tennessee? Is this something you were invested in coming into the season? How are you approaching this? What's your, is it truth or dare here with the Tennessee offense and it being panic time?
No, I'm not panicking. So I'm daring not to panic. I guess that would be the way I'd approach it. I'm invested in A.J. Brown here. I think the passing game and even the running game will get back on track. Arizona came out hot. They just rolled them, and they could just never catch up. The problem, we talked about Zeke, Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry is one of the funnest guys to watch, one of the best NFL players. I mean, the guy's just a beast. But you're asking the guy coming off a 2,000-yard season to replicate that. I mean, he scored 17 touchdowns last year and 2,000 yards, and he was running back 3. So that was another reason why I stayed away from that. He'll get his yards. He'll get his touchdowns. This offense, I mean, Julio will play better. AB will be better. But, I think the game script is going to dictate they have to pass. They don't have a good defense.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. The defense is definitely going to dictate that they're going to have to pass. And for that reason, I was out on Henry during draft time, that and his price. Matt went through that pretty well. I think, really what we're going to find out is how well can the new offensive coordinator adjust. Pretty clearly, he didn't have answers in week 1, and it's really on him to start developing those answers pretty quickly. Because if he doesn't, it's going to be a long season in Tennessee, and it's going to be a long season for people who bought Tennessee assets. As somebody who's heavy into AJB, I'm certainly rooting for him to get it right. I know AJB is a big enough talent that he's probably not going to sink me either way, but still, you don't buy a guy like that at that spot in the draft to just go out there and do okay. So, what do you think, Theo?
Yeah, I think this is kind of a mulligan game. I think that the Seattle game's in Seattle, but I think it'll be a little more indicative of what Tennessee can do. I think the one concern was Chandler Jones just abused their offensive line, and we're used to seeing Tennessee block better than that. And I think that's kind of a one-off where guys can get 5 sacks and just kind of go nuts. I think Tennessee needs to be able to run to set up the play action to those wide receivers, and they weren't able to do that in catch-up mode. So I think game 2 will be telling. I think Seattle's probably a little bit better matchup because I think they don't mind playing slower. But Arizona, that Arizona team, when they've got you down, they put so much pressure on you with that offense. So it's kind of like that game, the wheels just fell off. So I'm not ready to abandon ship. I am also very heavy on AJ Brown. He had a touchdown in a game that got blown out, so I'm hopeful that he can continue that this weekend. And that was ugly, but I don't think it's abandon ship time. And Vrabel called out Julio Jones really hard in the media. Julio had a really big penalty, personal foul, and Vrabel basically threw him under the bus. So I think that was kind of like a wake-up call type moment for them, and I think they'll come out well in Seattle.
Matt, staying in the same division where, we're not really seeing one dominating force right now, maybe the Houston Texans, who would have thought, but is this a scenario in Jacksonville where you'd be buying the receiving game and selling the running game, more specifically J-Rob? On this channel, we talked about J-Rob and, kind of that very delicate floor that he offers, the uncertainty that offers there. So is this time to sell J-Rob, or what are your thoughts on this offense? Where's the truth or dare with Matt?
I mean, the truth is probably to sell the running game here. And look, if you're a J-Rob owner, That was the best matchup of the year. You were at Houston on a fast track against a terrible defense. And, I mean, that was his game. And for Carlos Hyde to be that involved. And it looks like J-Rob's going to be more of the ETN guy than, that back that was going to get all the touches with the rushes and the receptions. So that's got to be a bit disconcerting. And he's a guy that went late second, early third in a lot of places. Maybe fell back a little in the last week, but he was a pretty high asset. I mean, he was great last year, but I think this is a team that's going to be throwing a lot. Urban Meyer said they can't be a 51 drop back team, but I don't see how I don't really see most of the weeks. You just played the worst team in the league, everybody thought, and you had to throw the ball 50 times. You got better teams coming.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, you're talking, maybe you won't be throwing it 50 times, but I bet they'll be throwing it 35 to 40 a lot. So that's going to be the big issue. I think if you bought J-Rob, I mean, you're kind of stuck right now. Hopefully you've got better answers on your roster that you can throw into your starting lineup and just kind of wait for better days. I do think there will be, a time where Hyde just either proves he doesn't have it anymore or wears down to the point where, Meyer decides to do something new, so I still have a fair amount of hope that J-Rob is going to come through a little bit more later in the year. But for now, he's somebody I would be planning firmly on my bench and starting somebody else if I've got the opportunity.
Yeah, I think he's going to look like a bust at where he was drafted. There's no nice way to say it. I don't think Urban Meyer has any loyalty to James Robinson. He showed you what he thought of him with the Travis Etienne pick. He showed you what he thought of him this past weekend with Carlos Hyde out, getting more rushing attempts than him. And it seems like they want to, dump the ball off to Robinson occasionally. But they signed Duke Johnson right before the season. I wouldn't be shocked if they get Duke involved a little bit, further down the line as well to make it even more messed up. So, I have no faith in James Robinson this year. I think if you're a dynasty, manager, and you can get top value for Robinson after maybe a big game, I think you dump him because I don't think Urban has any loyalty to him, and I'm not sure Urban knows what he's doing. I think the wide receivers are good enough. And I think that Trevor Lawrence is good enough that there'll be some fantasy value with the passing game, but I don't have any faith in the running backs.
Dan, you had a receiver out in LA, Charger Land, that you want to talk about tonight in regards to coming out party.
Yeah, so Mike Williams definitely had a little bit of a coming out party on week one. So Matt, what do you think about Williams? Is that for real, or is that just kind of a really nice game and but don't put too much in it?
No, I'm actually buying it. I think there's a possibility this does stick. The thing was early on, like say end of July, early August, I was drafting a lot of Mike Williams, and Mike Williams popped up with an injury and stuff, and it's like here we go again. But I think, they showed he was involved a lot. It wasn't just deep plays. He's always an end zone target. So I'm definitely buying this one. So truth on that for me.
Yeah, I'm truth as well. I actually got to watch this entire game. Thank you, NFL Game Pass. It's an amazing mention. So they're throwing him the low A-dot looks. He's getting easy targets. He's a big body guy. We know he can get behind the defense and score in the red zone. But he looked really good on low A-dot routes, and they were throwing it to him. And Herbert looked really, really good. Keenan Allen on the opposite side of him, taking all kinds of pressure away. He's going to get good matchups against the secondaries. And I think that's an offense I'm buying. And Mike Williams is certainly, somewhere between a wide receiver 2 and a wide receiver 3. But I think in most leagues, he's a guy you're starting every single week right now. And I think this could be a really big year for him heading into free agency.
Dan, I was going to ask you exactly about the running back situation there. What are your thoughts on our boy ML and his question with regards to the backfield?
No, I think ML's right on. Eckler didn't get a single target this past week, but I don't really put too much stock in that. It was function of the game circumstances, and the nice thing that we did see out of Eckler was the goal line carry, which we had not seen hardly any of at all before. So if he's going to get those goal line carries and he's going to get those targets, and I do think he will get the targets. Eckler is going to be a really nice buy that people are going to be very, very happy with. Matt, where are you at on that?
Yeah, no, exactly. I think everything you said there, watching him get that goal line carry, I kept hearing how he never gets any goal line carries. The one thing in watching the parts of that game I did see is and I was a little surprised by it, but the Chargers wide receivers were open. Even Bigfoot Jared Cook was running wide open. It wasn't like he had to dump it off that game. When you got the receivers open, just keep throwing to them.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Herbert talked about this. I saw an interview with him, and they asked him specifically about why they didn't dump it down to Eckler, and he says the game plan's always looking downfield, and then they'll dump it off when they have to. So I think that a lot of defenses are going to be, it's going to be matchup specific, but Herbert's a good enough quarterback that if you're taking away the wide receivers, he'll have no problem giving Eckler a 10 target game. So I think that'll happen naturally. It might not be a force fed thing like we might have expected, but like Dan said, if Eckler is seeing the goal line and he's seeing all the red zone rush, it seems like as well. Then he's gonna blow up this year because that offense is going to score a lot of points, and that was a tough road game for them, and they won it. They're going to have some matchups where they're going to be scoring in the 30s, before you know it. So I'm buying Eckler. I'm not worried about that game one. We all know that he's a fantastic receiver, and I think the receptions will come.
Guys,
right, and Roundtree is definitely looking like the backup there. So if you're in deeper leagues, that's the guy you want.
That nice last pick in those FFPC best ball, Mr. Roundtree.
Exactly.
Guys, smash the like right now if you're liking what you're getting. And, you guys saw me fumbling in the beginning, and I keep forgetting every show to mention this. If you're watching this or you're listening to this and you're a techie, you know how to edit videos or produce or do anything like that, image work, digital work, any of that stuff. We could use a bit of help here in the district. So reach out to me or Dan or Theo, and maybe we can get you a spot on the team to help us out, so that I don't keep fumbling those intros, Dan. Anyways, guys, Dan, I wanted to ask you before we kind of go back to offensive fantasy again, because of the leagues, the high stakes leagues, FFPC, you've got defenses there. You threw a tweet out today with regards to the Washington football team being an overrated defense. I wanted to ask you, was that specifically for week one, or just you think in general this season, especially in the early parts of the season, that this is maybe a defense that's overvalued?
I think it's a defense that's a little bit overvalued overall. They had quite a few games last year where they gave up a lot of points, and that doesn't really help out a defense, even fantasy wise. Even though sometimes you can have a fantasy defense that gives up a lot of points and yet they still score pretty well, and that did happen for Washington. That's not something that I like to really count on, or to me, if you're giving up that many points, you're probably sooner or later going to go through a bad stretch where you're not scoring many fantasy points. I want defenses from teams that have good enough offenses to put pressure on the opposing offense and make them have to step it up in the passing game, which is what then, if your team is playing with a lead, then the other team has to pass. You can pin your ears back. You can rush the passer. That's when the sacks, the interceptions, the strip sacks, all that kind of stuff happens. And that's where you're starting to score your points right there. And I'm just not sure I see Washington in as good a, I don't think they're a terrible defense, but I just don't see them as being one of those elite defenses where they were getting taken in most of the drafts this weekend.
Guys,
yeah, I think there's a chance for a get right type game. Thursday at home against New York. The Giants,
Yeah, that's right.
certainly struggled with Denver. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't think that they'll, like, Washington was drafted like defense 2 or 3. I don't think they're going to hit that, but I think they're good enough. There's a lot of individual talent on the defensive line. There was Herbert certainly had moments where he picked them apart in timely moments. So that was a little disappointing, but the Giants game could be a real get-right game for them on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have the talent there. I think it's about getting the sacks and stuff and the turnovers. Like I said, sometimes you're going to just facing the Cowboys is going to be tough, twice a year. Are the Eagles really for real? We'll see that. But, I mean, the Giants, this is a game Thursday night that, this defense has to step up. And look, I mean, I know the Chargers were on the road, but that was a tight game. Yes, Washington got lucky. I thought that was a horrible call. That wasn't a fumble in the end zone. I don't know. Maybe I watched that and I was like, whatever. But, the Chargers are a good team. I think the Chargers are an underrated defense. I think after you get past this week, outside of like facing the Chiefs and stuff, I think they got some talent there too. There was a late defense I took, a lot.
So before we go to, I had a question up with Philly, and then I know, guys, we could talk about our Hurts at QB in the football guys. Just going back to Washington real quick, grabbing a cold Heineke coming in as a starter for this team. Hopefully he's back healthy and can start. Is this sprucing up this offense? Is this, Theo, truth or dare with regards to Heineke being good for this offense?
I say dare. I think if he was better than Fitzpatrick, he would have been out in the preseason. And I think that Heineke is a gamer. He's a guy that he played really well in the playoffs and down the stretch. But I'm downgrading Washington offense with him. I think if you have, McLaurin
across the board, Theo.
I certainly think the passing options. I take them down slightly. McLaurin and Thomas looked like potential wide receiver, a wide receiver 1. I think that McLaurin, you treat him as a wide receiver 2, and I think Thomas is a maybe a back end tight end 1, high end tight end 2. Heineke is a gamer, but I don't think he's gonna elevate the talent around him. Gibson looked very promising, I thought. I think they'll lean on the running game a little bit more with Heineke. But don't underestimate the fact that Fitzpatrick had no problem forcing the issue, throwing the ball downfield, doing whatever he had to do. Fitzpatrick always has some fantasy goodness around him, based on the way he plays. I don't know if Heineke's got the gunslinger in him. I think it's going to be more of a controlled approach, and I think they're going to lean on their defense in the running game a little bit more with him. So I'm going to say dare on Heineke.
Matt, do you agree with Theo or our boy Casey with regards to maybe Logan Thomas?
Logan Thomas is the guy. Logan Thomas, I think, will eat tremendously with the change. He was going to do well, I thought, with Fitzmagic.
Either way,
but I agree with Theo. He's a gunslinger. He's not afraid to throw the interception. That's part of his game. He's going to look good at times, and he's going to get burned by the interception. That's how he's made his bones in the NFL. That's why he's still around. He's not timid.
He's Jameis Winston with a beard.
Yes, an elder statesman. But I'll say it for this, maybe for like real football, if the defense can step up, Gibson, does his job. And maybe it's not that bad for them, I think, but like for the fantasy purposes, they do take a hit. But Logan Thomas is the one guy I think will not be affected. If anything, he might even get more of a boost.
Dan, anything to add before we talk about the Eagles in the same division? Which, I mean, this division is fun as usual, right? No different this year.
Exactly, yeah. No, I guess I'm probably a little more bullish on Heineke, but I kind of came into it. I was a little bit of a Heineke truther, all off season long. Not that I necessarily didn't like Fitzpatrick, but when's the last time you saw Fitzpatrick start 16 games? So, Heineke was somebody I was definitely grabbing in deep leagues, grabbing in super flex, things like that. And I do agree that at least for the short term, he's going to be a downgrade in the passing game. They're gonna be a little bit more cautious. They're gonna have probably a little bit more, just conservative game plans. But I guess I have at least some level of optimism that he might be able to still unlock McLaurin to the point where he's, low end wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2, something like that. And Logan Thomas, I'm definitely buying, and I think this does nothing but help Antonio Gibson probably. Other than if the offense can't maintain drives, that's going to be problems for Gibson.
Matt, Philly was some nice value this offseason with people unsure about what Hurts would do in this offense and how it all come together. Some people saying, obviously with the Watson rumors and all the QB rumors, you think, oh, what are they in rebuild? Or they, there's all kinds of kind of uncertainty thrown out there, and it made for a lot of opportunity. And we got a question from our boy Casey. Hurts and that offense looked good this weekend. Truth or dare right now, whether it's Hurst or this offense as we go into week 2 and beyond.
See, this is the beauty of week 1, where they face the Falcons and it just looked terrific. Now you're home versus San Francisco. I want to say truth, but I'm going to go dare here. I want to see it happen against the Niners, against a real team. They just throttled Atlanta. Atlanta didn't even put up a fight. Atlanta was still running the ball while they were down 3 touchdowns. It was like, is this really like what are you doing? I got Ridley in a couple of big spots, and I'm like, why are you throwing?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I'll say this: as much as I said there, I see the potential. I want to remain a little calm after week 1 against the Falcons. This is going to be a nice matchup. Hurts goes in, and Rieger and Smith, and everybody does it again. Then they're for real. So this is nice because they had the matchup in Atlanta. They took care of business, looked fantastic. How's it going to go in San Francisco?
Yeah, I'm going to say truth, because I think that Hurts, they're using him well enough on those design rushes. I think he's going to keep returning value. If they're gonna give him 10 or so rushing attempts every single game, I think he's going to keep it going. It's a very difficult matchup against San Francisco. I completely agree with Matt on that. But I'm kind of bullish on Sirianni. He's got like a presence to him on the sideline. The players seem to love Sirianni, and they're utilizing the backs well. I think Sanders and shout out to Matt, who drafted the hell out of Kenny Gainwell all summer long. Kenny Gainwell looks really good too. So I think that he's shown that in Indianapolis he can maximize his backs, and he certainly did that this weekend. Devonta Smith looks really good. Both tight ends are healthy. I don't know if I'm necessarily buying Rager, but I'm certainly buying Smith. And I think that offense is going to kind of surprise people a little bit. But I would be surprised if they get a win against San Francisco. But I'm a little more bullish on Philly than I thought I was going to be after seeing them. Atlanta looks absolutely horrible. Atlanta looked like one of the worst teams in the league. They had 2 third and longs where they ran the ball. It was like they threw in the white flag at home. They had Cordero Patterson getting a first quarter rushing attempt. It's like what are you guys doing? It's I'm a little worried about Ridley and Pitts based on just I think Matt Ryan kind of looks like dust, and Philly just beat the wheels off him.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you there. I was terrified.
I saw somebody on Twitter said something about looked like Arthur Smith and Matt Ryan had just met for the first time on the bus ride into the game. That's I wish I remember who it was that said that, but that's about exactly it. That was pretty bad. But the Atlanta defense we knew was going to be bad because Dean Pease, great coordinator, but his defense takes a while to put into place, and he really needs more talent than what he's got there. So I see Atlanta they're going to have to, if they want to win any games at all, they're going to have to, ramp up the pass game somehow. And so hopefully they can find a way to do that and, get Pitts on track and get Ridley on track at least. And, and then go from there. But those are really, Pitts, Ridley, and those are the guys I'm still most interested in that offense.
Yeah, real quick.
Yep.
Just watching that first drive of the game where Atlanta drove down the field, they got to the 5-yard line, whatever. Ridley had 3 receptions. Mm-hmm. I'm like, this is going to be awesome. Ridley's going to put up a 30-point week. This is going to be a 30-something game. Both offenses are going to go off, and it was donezo after that. They came back the second drive, had kicked another field goal, and that was it. It was over. Their offense was done.
It was hard to watch. There's no doubt.
I think a few of us agree with Kyle there with Atlanta's options in the rookie draft taking Pitts, and that's one of the reasons. On top of just the obvious as rookie tight ends, but just that it was not somewhere I wanted to invest. So Kyle, appreciate that. Just real quick, guys. Casey asking, is Patterson worth a flex? Feels like a trap. We had our trap show with Noah about a week ago. Anything on that, guys?
It's a trap.
Everything about this offense.
Don't start Cordero Patterson in your flex.
Right.
Wayne Gallman hopefully will come in there and help that team out a bit. Obviously, They signed him late. I think the Niners did him a favor. It actually backfired with the Mozart injury, but I think Atlanta was a perfect spot for him. Hopefully, he gets up to speed and he can help that offense out.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you guys, because you're all listening, I'm going to give you the cheat code for the Atlanta offense and Matt Ryan in particular. All you need to do is just DM me or JD and ask us if we are starting Matt Ryan in one of our dynasty leagues. And it's a super flex dynasty league, and every time we have started Matt Ryan in the flex, it's been brutal.
We're going to start him as often as we will Nicole Hardman, right, Dan? In the
right. Just awful. I mean, I wanted to spike cut him after this week. Just it's a super flex, so you can't. But oh my god, I just wanted to cut him.
And Andrew Schellenberg and I started him in our RotoViz 1250 Triflex League. And I think that Matt Ryan's going to be fun bench for Derek Carr this week. It was brutal. Cost us a win.
Well, I mean, I think what you have to hope this week, if you're like me, you have really in a couple of spots, and you invested in Pitts, is they have to cash in on the garbage time. Which, I mean, Tampa Bay is going to put. This isn't going to be close. So you're going to have to still be competing. And, throwing the ball, not running the ball, and putting up points. Because, I mean, the garbage time points count just as much as the, early game points, midway points. So you need those garbage time points this week.
So just to kind of simple this down for anyone, watching that, are we buying this offense at a discount right now when we're talking about the main pieces in Ridley, or is this just like a fade now, or is this, where are we in the truth or dare situation?
For me, I personally just can't fade. If I can get a discount on Ridley, I mean, as much as I'm nervous, I don't have a choice now. I'm already invested. But as an outside person, if somebody's coming to me and I can get a discounted price on a guy, I think Arthur Smith's too smart, and if Matt Ryan has anything left, they're just the abundance of targets he should get and his talent alone. Like I said, even when the game's a blow, he should be on the field. They're not going to be sitting him. Atlanta's not winning many games, so I think you got to buy the dip.
Yeah, I would buy the dip on him, and I would also buy the dip on Pitts if people are worried. Pitts had eight targets. Which we can talk about whatever we want, but if they're going to target Pitts 8 to 10 times a game, he's gonna put up numbers. So yeah, I mean, I'm very worried about the offense, but Ridley should get enough targets, and he's a talented enough player that if somebody wants to abandon ship in a league where you can trade, I would absolutely take on Ridley if you can get a 80 cents on the dollar type thing.
Famous
Yeah.
Jay just taking the dare, Dan.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I don't like betting against guys like Ridley. So I would definitely grab him if I can take him at a discount. And if I own him, I'm just going to hang on and hope they can turn it around. But yeah, Arthur Smith is a good coach. I think they are going to start getting more out of that offense. And, it's a lot like, Tennessee. They had a really, really bad week, and it's time to see if they can come up with answers. I'm a lot more confident that Arthur Smith can come up with answers than I am, the new offensive coordinator in Tennessee can come up with answers.
Guys, if you don't understand the rumor news, just buy the red and sell the green. How about that? And it's very simple. A guy like Ridley, like Dan said, like these, every guy in the screen right now, this is a no-brainer. This is your opportunity to buy a guy that nobody was letting go of circa 7 to 9 days ago, right? So Kyle Pitts, if you're like Theo and you're bullish, go buy Kyle Pitts. It's like I tried to talk about in the intro with the narratives. Like, is this pulling you away from your narrative, or is this an opportunity for you to capitalize on that narrative now that that value maybe in the perception of fantasy land has gone down with what we've seen on the field from Atlanta? So this is exactly how you win your league, guys, is by taking advantage of the situations when you see them. Talking about red or green, Dan, I'll go back to you first. Talking green, New York Jets, a little bit of hope with the coaching situation there. Looking at the backfield, I know Carter was a guy that, especially in those best balls, going maybe light running back early and then smashing the receiver tight end position. Carter was a guy that, we had often on our best ball teams. What's your thought on this, the backfield situation in New York, and is there opportunity there? What's a truth or dare for Dan as he approaches this offense?
I mean, I'm going to go with a little bit of truth here, in that if I've got pieces of that backfield, I probably got them cheap enough that I'm going to continue to hold. And if I see somebody drop one of them on the waiver wire, at least if Ty Johnson or Michael Carter gets dropped on the waiver wire, I'll grab them. Tevin Coleman's probably going to be a little bit tougher, but I guess if I can get him for $1 or something, I'd take it. But I think this is an offense that's kind of based loosely on the San Francisco offense. They're looking for the same type of runners, and I think probably Ty Johnson and Michael Carter are the ones that are going to fit that the best. But, like I say, a little bit on the cheap side, so I don't mind hanging on to them for right now, unless I see somebody who looks a lot more attractive that I would be willing to drop them for. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things where I kind of like the receiving pieces of the Jets, not really the running backs. The one running back I do like is Carter, like you guys are in on. And, you saw him just drop as it became all you heard in like the OTAs and leading up to the preseason games was how he was the guy in their backfield, and he has that pass catching ability, which we all love in PPR. But until he becomes that guy, I mean, if you have him, I think you're just stashing him, and it's one of those you got to be patient with. If somebody cuts him, that's when you got to pounce. And you got to have room on your bench, and that's what you got a bench for. It's stash a guy like that. I do think his time will come, but he's the one piece in that backfield that I would be after. Otherwise, it's basically the passing game for me for the Jets.
Yeah, I'm not particularly high on any of those running backs, but Michael Carter would be the one that I'd want on my bench. It seems that it's a long season, and he has a decent profile that you would at least expect him to get the opportunity down the line. I don't think the Jets are a team that's going to win a lot of games. They have New England coming into New York this week. I live on Long Island. I would love to see the Jets get that win, but I don't anticipate it. I'm not really buying anybody in that backfield, but I'll agree with Matt. If Michael Carter is somebody you have room for, I think he's got kind of the highest ceiling if given the opportunity. But right now it's kind of a big pain because a number of guys are getting touches. Tevin Coleman's in for maybe half the game. So it's kind of a pain in the butt backfield where nobody's really returning any value. So I would say dare at this point with some hope.
Shout out to Kyle. He hopes everyone's enjoying themselves, and so do we, guys. And if you are, please smash the like button. That just helps the show, guys. It's your way of saying we like what we're getting. We appreciate the goodness. That's your way to support it. It takes literally a millisecond. Subscribe, obviously, so you keep getting the goodness, including the bloopers. I like to offer some bloopers every once in a while in the beginning of these shows, just to keep it light and keep it entertaining. But guys, in Buffalo, obviously the aerial game was very appealing. And maybe I'll go back to you, Theo, first. The running game, obviously, Moss, Singletary, they bring in Breda. Is Singletary the piece you want in this offense? Truth or dare, Theo?
So I'll say as long as you understand your expectations, I'll say truth. I think that with Moss out of the way with an injury, I think Singletary's a guy you can put in the flex. I'm not overwhelmed with him, but I think he's a good enough player. If you're in a pinch at an RB2 or a flex, you can use him. I've always kind of liked Singletary, and we've always said that it would be easier to gauge that backfield if there's only one of them. So they had a disappointing loss week 1 to Pittsburgh, but Buffalo has Miami this week. It's a potential get right game. The offense is still got very talented players, and I don't mind Devin Singletary right there. I'll say truth.
I'll say truth as well. I mean, I'm a Bills fan, and originally when I started drafting, I thought Moss was going to be the guy this year. I quickly got off of that. He got hurt in camp and stuff. He missed a couple of weeks. But, I mean, the thing with Singletary is he does give that added dimension. But like Theo said, it's not really one that you're targeting heavily, but if you have it and he's a guy you can play at moments, yes. I will say that 4th and 1 call in the fourth quarter at midfield is one of the worst play calls I don't even know what happened there. Like, they tossed the ball 8 yards back to Matt Breda. You got Josh Allen. You're in a nail biter of a game, and the Steelers went down, scored a touchdown, blocked the punt, game over. Sorry about that. I tried to get that off my chest.
It was mystifying to me as well. That was one of the games that when I was watching in Vegas, it was on a screen that was very handy for me to see, and that was tough to watch. And I'm gonna go the same way as you guys. I think Singletary is definitely the piece you want in this backfield, but if you're relying on him on a weekly basis, your team is probably in a little bit of trouble. So, you want to look to move him into the role of I'm starting him when I have a bye, not I'm having to start him into my flex all the time.
Yeah, and I think the Bills will get right. Just getting back to the Bills, that Pittsburgh game was a little tricky, but the next 3 look like very winnable. It's actually kind of a big landmine game this weekend. At Miami, that should be one of the better games of the week. Miami's got a little bit of juice after the win over New England, and I still like the Bills to go in there and get that win, but it'll be exciting.
Yeah, it's a tough game. That's not going to be easy. It's never easy when they have to travel to Miami. So we'll see.
All right, guys. Let's this might be the hottest story this week. It's Theo is going to be dropping some waiver wire goodness, guys, throughout this season, and this is definitely probably the hottest waiver wire topic this week. And I touched on it earlier in the show with regards to buying the rumor and selling the news. And Elijah Mitchell, like I said, is a guy you got super cheap. This is a 6th or 7th round rookie draft pick for San Francisco. Just with the uncertainty and opportunity in that offense, it was a no-brainer when this guy was in drafts. Dan, I think you'll agree. If you were in a draft with me, I probably got him in his rookie draft. If you were in a best ball with me, I probably drafted him late just because he was a no-brainer. Now, this is where you have to decide what you're doing, guys, and this is what I want to know, truth or dare. Elijah Mitchell, you got him on your roster, you got him cheap. Is he taking you to the promised land, or is this time to sell the news?
I wouldn't sell the news, no. And this is coming from a Trey Sermon owner. I have multiple shares of Sermon. He's a guy that I here's the thing. here's the process that I look at. It was like bidding on Tyson Williams last week and bidding on Sony Michel. The Tyson Williams was at the time. This was the day before Gus Edwards got hurt, but I was looking to buy a piece of that the Ravens backfield. It's one of the best backfields. You know what Lamar that they're going to produce. He looked like he could be the pass catching guy there. Edwards got hurt, so that opportunity we'll see. I still think he's the one guy that actually can has some juice, as was noted earlier in the show. So, and with Sony Michel, Henderson looked really good. He may have the bell cow. Can he hold the bell cow? I'm not sure, but I'd want to have Sony Michel on my bench in that offense because there might be an opportunity for that guy. So with Mitchell, if you're looking to bid on him, you're bidding on the 49ers running game, which has been, third and fourth the last 2 years in fantasy. You know what Shanahan can do. So if you have Sermon, you should still be bidding on Mitchell, in my opinion, because now you can get both of those guys. And it may be frustrating at times, but hopefully it'll work itself out. Who's to say if Trey Sermon gets a chance this week, he does, and he goes off, everybody's going to be like, Trey Sermon's going to lead you to the promised land. But the way I'm looking at it, even on the teams that have Sermon, I'm going in on Mitchell because I want to have as much as that backfield. And like draft champions, I was taking Sermon and Mozart because I want that backfield. So it's how you're looking at things. Obviously, the question is how much. Would I bid 70, 90%? Absolutely not. The question is it 40 to 60%? Because that's what it's probably going to cost you this week on a guy like Mitchell. So I'm going to say Mitchell is better. His draft pedigree or draft description fits more like a Raheem Mostert type. But they did spend the third-round pick, right, on Sermon, whatever. He was a high draft pick.
Yep, a third.
That capital. And the GM and the coach want him to succeed. I don't care what they say about he was outworked or this or that. He's going to get the opportunity. So they want that guy to succeed. All of them. Like the Raiders want Henry Ruggs to succeed. Like they're going to give him every opportunity. So I think you're going in on Mitchell whether you have Sermon or not. That's the way I look at it. That's the way I'm going ahead. It's just you got to decide what's the comfort range for you on that price because it's going to be a hefty price tag.
Yeah, I'd go with that. One thing that I think isn't necessarily well known out there is that his college offense actually was somewhat similar to what San Francisco is running. So he's familiar with a lot of how that scheme works, like even like the pass protections and things like that. Terminology is probably different, I would assume, but similar concepts anyway for how they run the offense and how they expect the running backs to perform in it. So that's a nice little bump in Mitchell's favor. And the guy just runs like his hair's on fire. When you see that, that's something I always kind of gravitate towards. So I'm definitely in on Mitchell. I think Matt's right. You don't want to be spending 80% of your fab on him or anything like that. If somebody does, well, good for you. Welcome to him. You got him. And too bad you can't bid on anybody else the rest of the season. But you got your guy. I'm definitely going to be a little bit more, I guess a little more judicious than that. But then I already have some shares where I took him real late too. So for me, I've already got exposure. So I will make sure that nobody else is going to get really cheap exposure, but I'm not going to go out there and just completely bust my wallet on every week.
Yeah, Dan makes a great point. Even if you don't believe in Mitchell, if you think somebody else in San Francisco is the play, you have to price check your league mates. Don't let somebody get Elijah Mitchell for 25%. You've got to put a price check in there. And I'm going to say truth. I think that Shanahan has shown in the past that he does not mind going with an unknown. We saw Alfred Morris take the job in Washington and run with it and have great success. We saw him use an undrafted free agent who was a guy who'd been on a number of NFL teams, who had the kind of speed that Mitchell possesses in Raheem Mostert. And Raheem Mostert was given every opportunity. He had the holdout situation. They brought him back. He had, every opportunity to get on there. So I think this is the kind of back that can kind of catch fire. And I think that we sometimes are a little too judicious with our fab. I think you have an optimistic approach with it. If you want to go for it this week. I think that the positives versus the negatives are something you have to weigh out. But I think that if it hits, you've got an RB2 for the next 6 weeks. And that's something that's hard to come across, during the season. That's a hard thing to come across. And I also like the fact that a lot of guys that pop in week 1 end up being some of the best waiver wire pickups of the year. You think back to the Phillip Lindsays. James Robinson was a preseason waiver wire guy for a lot of guys. But you get those guys. Mike Davis was, good call. Mike Davis, he right after CMC went down, he was a guy that people were getting. Those guys stick, and you use your fab and you get them for a number of games. If you use a big fab bid in week 10, you might only get that guy for a few games. So I think it's worth a shot, and I think he looked great. They gave him 19 carries, and he looked terrific running the ball, and he also has receiving ability. So we all think that offense is dynamic. He looks like a guy who could get the job. I think he's the kind of guy you're very aggressive with this week. And even if you disagree with me, price check him. Dan, what would be a price check bid? And Matt, this question for you. What would be a bid where you'd be comfortable with getting him that is a number where you wouldn't want your league mates to be able to get him? 25%?
You asking me first? For me, I would put at least 25%. I mean, just even if Sermon becomes the guy or like the lead guy, he still has Mozart's out for the year. He made the statement today. He's taking the season-ending surgery. Again, you're buying the San Francisco 49ers backfield. They have one of the best schedules. They have a fourth-place schedule. They have the best playoff schedule, hands down. When Trey Lance gets in there and he's quarterbacking that team, and that running game is going to be even that much better. So, like I said, you're only going to get a couple opportunities throughout the year, too. Like you say, you want to be judicious. I get that. Some people, and maybe I'm a little more aggressive on the fab, but you got to look at it as if you got a shot in, say, week 1 or 2 to swing for the fence, or you hold out to week 8, you got that guy from, week 2. And at least you're taking an educated assumption. That's what you're buying opportunity. People are going to fail, but it's still the optimal move because you're going for the good offenses and the good run game. So 250, I think, is a minimal bid you have to put on him. If you get him for 250, it's not going to hurt you. You should still have at least a quarter, 3/4, or at least half of your fab left after that.
And let's face it. Sorry, Dan. Let's face it. These running backs in the San Francisco offense have a history, maybe the way that the offense runs, of being injured. So even if you don't, like you guys said, if you don't think that he's going to take over the role right away, that opportunity is going to come really quick. Chances are.
Yeah, and when you're deciding how much you want to bid, I mean, you just really got to be team specific. You might have a team that has a huge hole at running back, and you may need to go heavy for him and make sure you get him. And if you really need him, and you think he's going to be potential make or break for your season, going over 60% shouldn't be a problem for you. If you're just trying to check somebody, 25 to 35%, we'll just make sure that nobody's going to walk away with them for too cheap. And even if I'm strong at running back, I wouldn't mind spending that much on Mitchell because, I mean, we all know, what could happen during the course of a fantasy season. You can be 3 or 4 deep at running back, and 2 weeks later you can be scratching for a single starter.
Yeah, it's not like the receiver position where they're you got options galore. If you get a stud running back that magically lands on the depth of your bench, I mean that's some serious goodness right there, guys. Seattle, just to go to another offense that was cooking this weekend. Russ was cooking. We love to say that if you're owning parts of this Seattle aerial assault. Matt, what was your narrative coming into the season, and truth or dare right now with this offense attacking in the air?
Look, Russ is a winner. I love that he was on with Peyton and Eli last night. The fourth quarter, he stayed on with them until overtime. I mean, he's class act. Guy's a winner. I say truth all the way on this. As long as you keep Pete Carroll out of the kitchen, they got the new offensive coordinator. It looks like, everything is there. You saw it last year, and then, it kind of spun out of control at the end. But, yeah, I'm saying truth. I can have those two studs. Carson stays healthy. You got Everett there now. So, yeah, I'm in.
That's a perfect analogy, Matt. That's such a perfect analogy. Keep Pete out of the kitchen. All the guy wants to do is just walk in, look at what you got cooking in your pot, and just dump a pound of salt in there. And you're sitting there, you're going, we'll put a little oregano. We're going to put a little bit of basil in there, and Pete's like, no, salt.
The cook and Dan coming out here on the stream tonight.
Yeah, I hope that Russ keeps cooking. I don't know if he will or not, but I certainly hope they keep him cooking because that offense can be just fantastic if they let him keep doing what he does best. Theo, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that I'll say truth. They only ran 54 plays, and they were just super efficient. I think that there's going to be, a number of games coming up where they're going to have to play a little faster and have to go for it a little more. I think that offense certainly has the weapons, and Russ is a stud. Two stud receivers on the outside. We saw Gerald Everett from the end zone. So, yeah, I'm truth on that offense, and I'm happy that I have some Tyler Lockett and some DK Metcalf.
Dan, before we go, or as we go to my Colts, who didn't look too fantastic on the other side of the field there. Carson Wentz, I'll let you say it, man. Give us your thoughts on Carson Wentz and what he did on the field, and what's your truth or dare?
Yeah, so I want to find out what Matt thinks about this, but did Wentz just forget wide receivers are eligible receivers, or is he going to be fine once the rust wears off? Where are you at on that?
I thought it was a great game. I mean, Jonathan Taylor looked fantastic, keeping that trend from last year. Again, I think he's one of the best running backs if he's healthy. And even with Hines, I mean, it shows they both can play in that backfield now. I do think the wide receivers, the Pittmans, I mean, Paris Campbell, I think at some point in time will do something for this team. But I do think maybe as the season, look, he missed a lot of camp with the injury, then the COVID. So, I do think he's got to get back into it going, but I was very intrigued with Jonathan Taylor. He was a guy I got on three big teams early, and then I was like, you know what, I got to kind of move away a little because I don't want to be overweight. You just can't be overweight on a player in fantasy football because that one guy can just take you down.
Yep. What do you think, Theo?
Yeah. I mean, I'm very bullish on Taylor. I think Taylor's, clear RB1. He continues to show ability as a pass catcher, and he's one of the best natural rushers in the league. I love Hines. I think Hines is just, I wish I had total exposure to Hines. He's such a talented receiver, and they use him. So I have some Pittman. I'd like to see a little more. The snaps are there, but they're not really throwing to him. He was a little disappointing. So I'm looking for a turnaround game this weekend. I'm a little pessimistic about the wide receivers, but yeah, if you have Taylor or Hines, you should feel very, very good about things.
And just to point out, as per NFL.com, my Colts 5 seasons in a row with a different quarterback starting week 1, which is, it's like having a different coach, right? For like a young quarterback or something like that.
Haven't the Colts lost like 15 or 16 season openers in a row or something like that?
Something like that.
Some kind of craziness going on.
The Colts have lost 11 of their last 12 week 1 games, 8 straight. There you go, Mr. Matt, dropping the goodness.
I'm not trying to. I remember hearing something. They haven't been good on week 1.
You can't handle the truth.
Well, we can definitely say JT is the truth, and I think anything else in that offense is a dare.
And you have Matt Stafford and the Rams coming into Indianapolis this week, so it's not going to get any easier. That's a tough one for the Colts.
Yep.
All right, let's go to Detroit. We, one guy, all of us, I think, on this show, on the channel, big TJ Hawk fans, just got way too many shares, especially tight end preems. Other than Hawk, Swift, and J Dubs, another one of Dan's favorites. Matt, I'll go to you first. Is there anyone else on this roster you want a part of?
No. I mean, maybe there's a receiver down the line that can show something, but right now, these are the 3. I have to give Jamal Williams some props. He turned it on too. Swift, that report, that's why sometimes you got to put earmuffs on. It's like you have to decipher, and that report before the game from one of the beat writers or somebody close to the situation that it was going to be all Jamal Williams and Swift really wasn't going to play. But I think if you got Swift, and he came in a value in a lot of leagues. He was going late 4th. I think I got him at 5-1 on a team. You got to be really encouraged because, first of all, if you want those targets and stuff, 11 of them, 11 rushes. That was week 1 against San Francisco. And it's a team that's going to be, their game script is going to be coming from behind. So I think Walter Hawkinson, he looks like, after – the Wallers and the Kelseys and Kittles, he looks like he's got the opportunity to move into that territory by year's end.
Yeah, I don't want any wide receiver in Detroit, but if you have Hawkinson or Swift, you're feeling great. Shout out to Glenn Lowy, who's going to come on the GOAT District,
Awesome,
at the end of the month or in October. He went pretty much all in on DeAndre Swift, so that's a great start for his fantasy teams. But those guys look great, and Jamal Williams looks like a very usable piece right now. So I do think that we need to pump the brakes just a little bit because San Francisco got ahead so much that they were playing from behind for so long that I think the stats kind of got pumped up a little bit. But yeah, those guys look good, and they clearly the game plan is to get touches for all 3 of them. So I'm bullish on them, and for now, completely fading the wide receivers. And Tyrell Williams is out with a concussion, and he would be probably the one wide receiver that I would have to throw in if you were in complete bind. So this weekend, definitely don't start any Detroit wide receivers. Yep.
Fair enough. And, I was very happy to see Hawkinson go off. As you guys know, I've been, driving the Hawkinson hype train all off season. If you take a look at my player ownership, he was an extremely important player to, my ROI this year. And to see a week 1 like that certainly feels good. So hopefully that keeps going. I think it will. I'm saying these 3 are the truth. And, again, anybody else in Detroit is probably a dare. So, keep it up with Hawkinson and Swift. Williams, I could see maybe fading off a little bit as the season goes along. But right now, he's a pretty tough guy to keep out of your starting lineup.
Yeah, 20% FFPC, my Hawk ownership, and for me anything over 20 is high because I like to keep it spread like the jam and the jelly. Guys, OBJ is a guy that maybe people were hoping was a nice value at the receiver position, just with this offense in Cleveland showing really well last year, and no different in week 1, but we didn't see OBJ. So I guess the question is, truth or dare, Dan, and this is something you brought up in the topics, is OBJ, do you need to see it on the field, or is this like the opportunity for you to just keep hodling on those OBJ shares?
I need to see it on the field at this point. It's been long enough since we've seen OBJ really go off. I mean, he kind of showed some signs last year, but then, he gets an ACL, which is not an insignificant injury. I mean, we like to make light of the ACL and, look at Adrian Peterson. He came back just fine. Well, as we see ACL tear recoveries, Adrian Peterson is definitely much more of an outlier than he is, like what you should be expecting. So with OBJ, I was already worried from his previous injuries before the ACL that might have sapped some of his explosiveness and some of his jumping ability, that made him what he was. And, I was taking him in when he was falling into the 7th, 8th round, things like that earlier on in the offseason. It got a little bit tougher once he started moving into the 5th and 6th round. I don't have very much OBJ that high, and at this point, the shares I do have of OBJ are going to be planted firmly on my bench until I see a good game from him.
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to, wait and see. It's kind of disconcerting that he didn't get he wasn't able to be out there for week 1. And, shout out to Jarvis Landry. That guy is just a football player. The guy can do everything. I mean, he catches everything. He can throw the ball. He can run the ball. I mean, if you like football, you don't like Jarvis Landry. I don't know what you think. So I'm with Dan on that. I think Dan nailed it.
Yeah, I'll go up to you guys. If OBJ is active this week against Houston, I don't need to see anything. I mean, well, if he's active against anybody, I think that the Cleveland offense looks very improved, and I think all offseason, the drum beats were, this is going to be an OBJ season. He wasn't able to play this past weekend, but I think that I'm optimistic that he's going to have some games this week. If this injury lingers, my tune will quickly change. But if this was just a maintenance thing and they wanted to be very careful with him, then that's okay with me. I have a lot of OBJ. I drafted him and I plan on using him. I think that, with the downfield targets to Schwartz, Baker looks good. He completed passes to a number of people, but I think when it comes down to it, that he's the alpha in that offense when he's there. So I'll say truth. I'm putting him in there when he's out there.
I have OBJ shares too, so it's not that I don't like the guy. I will agree with one thing. What you're saying here about like the Schwartz, just the air yards that guy got this week, which kind of like just crushed that whole Donovan Jones people hype because he was, it was supposed to be him, the guy Schwartz. So I'm really not going to hold on to any that 20th, 19th round Donovan Peoples-Jones. But like you said, against like Houston and stuff, those are things you're going to have to start him.
Schwartz is fun. I have him on some dynasty teams, but he's probably the fastest player in the NFL right now. The guy was like a 4.19 40 at his pro day, and he's very young as well. He's like 20, and he can fly. So I respect the Browns for using a draft pick on him and getting him involved at the gate. I'll assume that it was because OBJ was hurt, but he was. I wrote about him in a waiver column today. He's an interesting guy to stash because, it seemed like he was part of the game plan. And if his usage increases a little more, I mean, that guy can absolutely fly.
Schwartz is kind of my Elijah Moore of the rookie receivers, just in the sense that where he was going, I mean, the opportunity in that offense, you talk about Peoples-Jones, he showed flashes, but Schwartz was going, 4th round? Sometimes even further in those rookie drafts. So again, you got
him beat up in Dynasty. People didn't love the profile in Dynasty. They looked at him kind of like a Tutu Atwell type, like a specialist, but he looks a little more than that.
And they're seeing an offense that maybe he's not passing the ball like we talked about. They've got those 2 running backs there, so maybe that's not the appeal. But again, you're not driving. Guys, one thing to keep in mind, whether we're talking about the Carters or the Schwartz or the you're not drafting rookies for week one, guys. If you are, you're just doing this shit wrong. And you probably didn't have Akers, Gibson, and JT to win you leagues last year like we did, right? Because you were impatient and you drafted these guys for the wrong reasons. Rookies are not going to win you week one, guys, period.
Look at both Moores. I mean, look at Elijah Moore and Rondell Moore. I mean, just look how fast they looked. I mean, Rondell Moore is probably going to take some time in that offense. I mean, Kirk was amazing what he did. He totally surprised me there. AJ Green, I think, his best days are past him. And Elijah Moore, even though he had one catch for like -3 yards, you can see that at some point this guy's going to pay off dividends for you. So
Elijah Moore, yeah, I agree with you completely. Elijah Moore, like, he moves like a star. The guy looks so athletic, and I think that the big weeks are coming for Elijah Moore. I think that he's going to be really, really good for the Jets.
He was on the field a lot too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's no secret that we're big investors in the more and more, what is it, associates or something like that.
Yeah,
guys, let's go from one offense that maybe isn't known for passing the ball as often to one that is, and maybe, making a stand this week in week one against KC. But when you look at KC, I think the biggest question coming in was CEH worth that, mid to late second, early third round pick that we were getting him at this offseason? Matt, again, as the guest, I'll go to you first. What are your thoughts? Truth or dare as CEH as a true RB1 stud on your roster?
Before I did any drafts, I thought I'd be heavily invested in him. I think I had one online championship share. Basically missed him when we went live for the high stakes. In a classic with Andy Saxton, we got him at 3-4, so it's a 14-team league. We got him with the third pick in the fourth round, and I'm being honest with you. I think he'll be good, but I regret that pick already because I just don't think he's the guy in this offense. He'll fall into good games and stuff, but this isn't like the old Andy Reid offense where you had the Westbrooks and stuff or the Shady McCoys. Patrick Mahomes, he'll improvise himself and he'll get it into the end zone, or he's going to throw the ball down the field. And when you got Kelsey and Hill, why wouldn't you? And when you're as good as Mahomes, why wouldn't you? So I'm going to say dare. I'll say truth because I think he's becoming matchup dependent, and I think he's just on an offense that's too good that he will fall into good weeks. But I'm just being honest. I regret that. Taking him at 3-4 in a 14-team league.
Yeah, I think he's an RB2, just based on the offense he's in. But Mahomes doesn't check down. Mahomes is going to scramble around, look downfield. So it kind of really limits. CEH is running routes, but he's not getting targets. It's too good an offense that one running back won't put up some points. But yeah, it's. You got to pump the brakes a little bit and understand what you have in CEH right now.
I'm getting pelted by some rain here, so I'll make this quick and pass this to you guys and then mute the mic. Green Bay, one of these situations, in my opinion, by that dip, as we like to say. Again, if you had the narrative coming into the season that Rodgers was, again, the offseason offered a lot of opportunities to Rodgers, let's face it, and this whole Green Bay offense, especially in the air. But now week one even emphasizes that. So, Matt, you're giggling. I'll go to you first. Truth or dare with, Green Bay being a nice buy right now after the week one disappointment?
It has to be truth. Otherwise, this really is the last dance game. You get Detroit coming in here. I mean, they were just humiliated, embarrassed on every level in that game. And they have too many good weapons. I mean, Aaron Jones is too good of a player. Rodgers. So I think the bounce back is coming. Getting the Lions. And I think the Lions, you're hoping for the same kind of thing. The Packers get up to that big lead, and they're throwing those passes to Hawkinson and Swift and Williams for the comeback. So, yeah, I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised. I think there's just too much pride after that game. That was just a total they would disrespect. I mean, I don't know. It was just a demoralizing loss that two good players have to come back.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead,
Theo.
Dan. I was going to say it's a get right a situation because it's Monday Night Football against an in division, team in Detroit. Adams and Jones were, they didn't really even play the fourth quarter. They took Rodgers out of the game. It was a complete beatdown. But I think they'll get it back together against Detroit. Now, if they come out and struggle against the Lions, then we've got serious issues in Green Bay. But I anticipate they'll turn it around this week.
Yeah, I think if you think that Aaron Rodgers is going to, mail it in on Monday night, you probably need to rethink, how much money you're spending on fantasy football. And then also, I think, the Green Bay offensive line was a little bit beat up, and New Orleans defensive line is better, I think, than we were giving them credit for. I mean, they had some problems in their secondary, but they certainly don't have problems on the line. And they were just, absolutely abusing Green Bay the entire way. And, and then they got up early on them in the scoreboard, and that really kind of made Green Bay a lot more one-dimensional, and it just wasn't working out. I mean, it was just kind of a big cascade, it seemed to me like. And this is coming from somebody who my lock of the week was Green Bay -3 over New Orleans. I was just absolutely sure that was going to be, that's how I see it anyway. I think we're going to see Green Bay come roaring back this week. Whether they continue to be a fantastic offense like they were last year, that might be a little bit more of a stretch, but I think they're going to be a very good offense the rest of the way. And if you can get any Green Bay pieces for any kind of a discount, I'd be doing it.
Agreed. On the other side of the ball, the unexpected domination of Mr. Jameis Winston, his coming out party per se. Matt, I'll go back to you as our guest. Are you buying this? Truth or dare with Jameis Winston dominating the NFL this season?
I mean, before I say anything, the guy had 5 touchdown passes with under 150 yards passing. That's an insane stat line. I'm buying Jameis in a fantasy sense more than a reality sense. So I do think you're still going to see bad Jameis. I know he was groomed under Breeze last year. I'm rooting for Jameis. I always kind of liked him, but I'm not saying. I think we're all getting. Some people are getting a little over their skis on him right now. I do think the one guy, if you could get on the cheap in this offense, is Marcus Callaway. He was clearly their number one receiver. Didn't have that line. Faced the best cornerback there, but he ran all the routes. So he's their number one receiver. So if you're trying to get you get something on the cheap, get a good deal for yourself, maybe I invest there.
Sounds good. Theo?
Yeah, I'm, Winston had, like Matt said, he had 20 passing attempts and, threw a bunch of touchdowns. It was a perfect start for the Saints. If it was a super flex league, I'm throwing Jameis out there. I'd have trouble streaming him against that Carolina defense this weekend. If you're streaming quarterbacks this year, I would hesitate to do that. I am optimistic about how Kamara is going to be with him. They clearly look like it's complete game plan for Kamara. And I will agree, Callaway was had by far the most routes run. Had by far the most. He's an air yards guy, and I think that big game is going to come for Callaway. So if anybody in your league, by any chance, if you're in a home league where maybe he's dropped, then you need to pounce on him.
Yep, agreed. I think it's going to be awfully fun to watch. Jameis playing against Tampa Bay a couple times this year. That's something I'm definitely looking forward to. But I thought Jameis looked real good. I mean, he did have one boneheaded throw into the end zone where he got kind of bailed out a little bit, but it should have been an interception. But that's he overall looked very, very good. Took care of the ball pretty well for the most part. So I like what he's done, and I think he did enough this week to keep Taysom firmly in that gadget player role. And, he would have to have probably at this point, a couple bad weeks before we'd really have to worry about Taysom coming out and taking the quarterback job.
Matt, Gruden today saying that Waller's the best player he's ever coached out there in Las Vegas. Last night, I think he started 1 for 7 with regards to targets, and then kind of gave you all the money you needed to squeeze that win. If you invested highly in him in those first few rounds, especially in the tight end preems. Is Waller now the tight end 1? Matt, are you buying that, or are you selling that?
I think he's right there. Kelsey's just the beast, and he's got Mahomes, but 19 targets. They weren't even efficient on those targets. I think he was like 10 of 19. And look, they just keep going to him. It's like they don't care. It's either him, Renfro. And at the end of I think the most encouraging thing was in the second half, and then the end of the game into overtime, we're seeing Ruggs make that catch down the sideline, and then Edwards step up. If those two guys can get more involved, Waller is going to be even more of a threat. If they can put something deep there, him over the seam, over the middle is just going to be. So is he the number 1? I think he's kind of right there with Kelsey. But, Kelsey's just a beast, and he's got Mahomes. So I can't dethrone him yet, put it that way.
Fair enough. And I am definitely big on Waller. I'll put it this way. In one of our high-stakes dynasty leagues, Austin Martin was trying to get Waller from me. And at the end of our negotiations, which ended up with me retaining Waller, he said, I thought at the start of this I was a Waller fan. He goes, now I'm not even sure anymore. So that's where I'm at on Waller. I think the guy looks just fantastic, and what a fun story to root for. All that's on the side for fantasy football. We need results, but he is a very fun guy to root for, and boy, he's just absolutely the straw that stirs the drink in Las Vegas. And I think Matt was exactly right. If he can get a little help from his wide receivers there, that could make him even more efficient. So, Theo, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a 1A and a 1B right now. Kelsey, the check goes to Kelsey for me because he's got the better quarterback and the more efficient offense. I think every now and then you'll run into a game where the wheels are going to fall off for Carr, and maybe the whole offense takes a step back. But Waller's going to be, either the number 1 or number 2 tight end in the amount of targets he's going to receive on the year. He's a fantastic talent. I think teams that drafted him, like Dan and I in the main event, are gonna win a lot of fantasy games this year just on that single pick. The win rates are going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. As the storms come a-falling up here north of the border, and we've done a $140 with our boy Matt. He's been extremely generous. So smash the like button, guys. Awesome questions from the chat comments. We appreciate you guys hanging with us tonight. Matt, as we close this out, remind the peeps where they can find you. Any goodness you want to plug or promote you have coming out, and maybe just touch on one more situation. Akers was a guy similar to JT and Gibby that people were really high on coming in. Unfortunately, gets hurt. Is Hendo the workhorse? I guess is the last truth or dare that I'll ask you guys to answer before we close this bad boy out.
Just getting back to that process question I posed earlier and how I want to buy opportunity in backfield. I thought Henderson was very talented. Akers went down. Everybody loved Henderson. Everybody's like, okay. All the people that were taking him in the 10th, 11th round were like, okay, we got a great deal. I believe in the talent. I'm just not sure if he's a workhorse. And I don't think that maybe they want to use him that over the course of 17 weeks. So, I would still be interested in Sony Michel. That said, if you have Henderson, I think you got a tremendous value in the 7th round or so. And he's a guy I want to ride. because I do believe he's talented. So, yeah, I mean, I could buy it, but I think he has to prove the durability. Injury has something he's always kind of had problems with. And you want to check me out, I'm at CTM Baseball on Twitter. Right now, just doing some freelance stuff. So I either pop on the podcast or you might see me in print here or there. You can find that at my Twitter handle. And thank you guys for having me on. It's been a blast.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Matt, for all the goodness and all your time. Theo, I'm going to mute myself real quick. Yeah, I totally fucked up the intro. But I think that the amount of goodness that was dropped on this $140 was definitely worth it and hopefully made it up for our fans. Remind the people, you have a couple things. You dropped a serious article today, a must read for the waiver wire. You're going to be dropping some waiver wire goodness for us here on the channel as we go through the season, and remind them of anything else you do before we close this out.
So yeah, I'm writing the waiver wire column for Player Profiler this year. So you can find my writing there. That's going to drop every Monday or Tuesday. And then we have a waiver wire pod that we're going to be dropping starting next week, most likely. Vegas kind of got that off the rails, but it's going to most likely be Mondays or Tuesdays during the day. Just a quick pod going over the waiver wire for the week. So look out for that on the GOAT District as well. And then you can find me on Twitter at the OG Fantasy. And you can find me in here in the GOAT District every week talking football. We've got some awesome guests lined up, very much like Matt. We're going to be bringing you, some really, really good takes. And, we'll continue bringing you the goodness all season long.
Dan, you give your thoughts on that LA backfield situation and close the goodness. And guys, just remember, man, make sure you're following Theo, Dan, Matt. Like, the amount of goodness these guys dropped is what you need to get to the next level, to get those W's to take you to the playoffs.
Yeah. So just a final thought on Henderson. I thought it was really weird over this last few days of high stakes drafts that somehow Sony Michel was actually leapfrogging him in some cases that we saw out in Vegas. I don't know what you were seeing online, Matt, but in Vegas we were seeing Michel going in front of Henderson sometimes, and that was just baffling to me. I get the advantage or the opportunity that Michel has got in front of him, and I do think that Henderson, could definitely leave the door open for him to do some more work. But I think Henderson's probably still going to be the guy that at the end of the year you would feel better if you took him over Michel rather than Michel over Henderson. But either way, anytime I couldn't get Henderson, I was interested in getting Michel. So, I just want in on that backfield one way or another. And nothing really else to push other than, this has been a great episode. I really enjoyed having Matt on here. It was every bit as good as I thought it was going to be. And, just excited to be able to compete against these guys. We have Matt and I are, I know, in at least one league together. Mm-hmm. And
that Dan's in first place.
And Matt is hot on my heels. So, that could change very, very easily. So we both got really good teams. So that should be a nice dogfight going on there. And, Theo, I got some teams that you and I are together on, and some places where we compete against each other, and same thing with JD. And it's just a fun time of year. So make sure you're checking out the GOAT District every week. We're going to keep bringing on great guys like Matt. And just check out what we got to offer as we go through the year. We're going to help you find a way to win that league one way or another.
That is correct, guys. And like I said, Theo, Dan, Matt, make sure you're following these guys and keep an eye out. We're going to be dropping something different this season with regards to injuries. So we maybe got it a little late this week with regards to being able to drop it for you. What we're going to do is drop Mr. Dr. Kyle from the Dynasty Warzone. He's going to be dropping some injury updates on the GOAT District channel. So make sure you stay tuned for that. We'll be dropping those, and we'll drop one very shortly for week 1. Guys, smash the like, smash the subscribe. We say it often, just that's the way you can help us out. Make sure you check out our partners, myffpc.com. That's where we play all the goodness. That's where you win 6 digits of goodness playing fantasy football, and Viridian Global, where you get all your GOAT gear, all your fantasy football gear, whether it's t-shirts, hats, hoodies, a ton of fun, a lot of good gear there, comfort and variety. And guys, get that week 2 W. You know what I mean? Maybe you flopped on week 1, like we talked about. It's not over. Kind of like, after we drop a huge intro, the show's not over, baby. We got a lot more to offer. We think we filled a lot of goodness for you guys and got you ready for week 1. Join us again next week and stay on this channel for a lot more goodness to come, guys. And like we tell you on the weeks, we'll check you all later.
Go district, the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden, they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man. Y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them.